little faster than you look. Only 8 minutes. Let's call court back to order. It's 10:05. And we'll enter into our budget workshop time. First up this morning is Brad Thomas from our maintenance department. Good morning, Mr. Thomas.
Good morning. The first thing I have, Judge and Commissioners, is I'm asking for a 5% raise for all of my support staff employees. And everything else on all the other line items as far as my expenses, if we keep them the same, I think we'll be just fine. And the next, I've got several things listed on permanent improvement. I want to do some remodeling of the Hoswell Sub Courthouse. We'll get do some flooring in the judge's office and the secretary's office and ceiling work, and I'm asking for $13,000 for that. And then we got some repairs we need to do at the Gold Hall. I want to put a coating on the roof, and we got a few repairs to do on the inside. I'm asking $6,000 for that. I got the Wascom Sub Courthouse. We're going to do some remodeling on the inside there. I'm asking for $5,000. I've got quite a bit of work I want to do at the elections office. We're going to remodel the exterior and then a little work on the interior. I'm asking $17,500 for that. The district courtroom, we're going to painting and ceiling and some electronics. I'm asking $15,000 for that. District judge's office, we're going to remodel everything in there except the judge's office himself. I'm asking $12,000 for that. County Court at Law courtroom. Of course, the judge wants new electronics in there, and we're going to paint and stain the wood that's there. I'm asking $25,000 for that. And we got a new maintenance shop down here. Of course, I think all of y'all are aware with the issue with that. And we met yesterday, and we could just build another building over there, and the maintenance shop could stay where it's at. But I've got $100,000.
So we talked about this yesterday. We may wind up, the problem we're having is the clerks, district clerk, county clerk, and every other department over there is running out of storage space to store their records, some of which we have to keep forever. And so they're begging for more storage. And we were thinking, you and I had talked about building you a new shop somewhere else.
Yes.
Because we got out there and looked yesterday, we probably have room out there and could
I
get us
think we
something
do.
designed that would fit nicely in there and give us ample storage for, I'd like to think years, but
I had gotten a bid on a 40 by 50 building with a roll-up door and a walk-through door, and it was $88,000. I was asking for $100, because if it was going to be a maintenance shop, I was going to need to do some work in there.
Right.
But if we build a building over there like you're talking about, I don't need to move.
Yeah.
So,
But let me ask you a question. A shell on a slab of like you designed, is it something that we, at this coming winter time that y'all could buy your materials and put your inside rooms, restrooms or whatever in?
well,
Or do we have to bid it complete? I don't know why we couldn't do.
yeah, depending on where we needed, I wouldn't even need a restroom.
Yeah.
Well, but I personally don't think it needs to be built over here by the courthouse. I think it needs to go out between the extension office and the guard armory out there on that Road Warren Drive where you
Yes, sir.
can build what you need. And I mean, I don't know if maybe that's too far in your grand scheme.
Well,
of things.
it would not. Me and somebody else is going to stay here at the courthouse at all times anyway. And I could have guys working from out of there, and we do a lot of work out there around the airport and
Well,
juvenile and.
I was just thinking, you could build one out there, and if it wasn't built, to me, for future growth, you're, sooner or later, I don't know how much room's left over here, but into the future, taking up space, at some point, you're gonna have to move off and build a building somewhere, in the future, so why not build what we need and even add a couple of bays of storage in the building out there?
Yeah.
For not necessarily records and stuff, but I just think back when we were getting all those 18-wheeler loads of cases and pallets of bottled water, and they were struggling to find a place to put it.
Yes, sir.
It'd been nice to just have a pull-through bay that's maybe 30 by 30 or whatever it is, 20 by 60, whatever you decide to build.
Yes, sir.
That just for just those occasions. You're not talking about finishing it, you're just talking about a shell.
Right.
But you know, that's just my thoughts on the deal. If y'all, I know y'all are cramped, I just hadn't really paid a lot of attention down there as to how much property we have where it's at.
We'll walk over and look at it. I think you'll kind of see what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, I think if we budget 100,000 for it, we're gonna be safe either way.
Okay.
You know, and we can just finalize what we wanna do after, you know.
Is all this considered permanent improvement?
That's right.
Yes, sir. And the next is the juvenile center bathrooms. They're having a problem out there, and what it is, the walls are built out of center block. And I apologize for that. The walls are built out of center block, you know, and they stay wet constantly. Well, they get brittle, you know, and the surface of them, we just had them redone not long ago, and they come in and sealed them off and all that. Well, it's actually just breaking off, you know. My solution to that is, and I've talked to several people, and they said it will work, if we was to go in there, and we got 5 bathrooms, and tile up about 7 foot with ceramic tile, to where it can actually be clean, it'll be slick and clean. And I got a bid on it at $34,900 to do all 5 bathrooms.
But if the walls are sloughing off in moisture now, why would you want to put tile on top?
Well,
of it?
they tell me it won't, it'll hold.
Still stick to it?
That's
What's the root cause? Just too much moisture?
too much moisture, yes, sir. And it's,
Like we could remove it mechanically, right?
sir?
Have you thought about removing the moisture mechanically?
Well, I've got some bigger fans coming in, the exhaust fans.
That's,
But, Commissioner, I don't think that's gonna be enough. It's pretty bad.
In some of those old buildings that were built commercially, I'd never seen it done, but I was involved with the
Well,
building.
the-
It was built in there, there's a chase between 2 walls. You know, we're not talking about plumbing like in a house or in
No.
this building here. I mean, it's, you know, it's a different type.
It's very
The
tight.
way they hang it, the way they install it and everything
Yes.
else, because it's durable, it's almost like.
You know, well, and those center blocks, you know, they're porous, so when they get wet, they're gonna hold moisture. You know,
So
and
it's
they
not a
never
leak,
really,
It's just,
they never get a chance to really dry. No, I check for leaks. So,
so it's in a shower area or in
Yes, sir.
sinks or shower?
yes, sir.
What'd they coat them with? Epoxy type?
So, yes, sir, some type of
But it
epoxy.
actually flaked off the center.
Yes, sir. It's, there's places on them about that wide and that tall to where it's just gone.
I would maybe look into like an ERV, something just, talking move some air. Pull
Yes,
it
sir.
out and just think through that, maybe. I don't know if
Yes,
that's.
yes, I've got one of our contractors, and he's supposed to anytime, and
Yeah.
be putting some in, some bigger. We have some exhaust fans in there, they're just not moving enough air. But like I said, though, the center blocks never dry up, you know, because they're constantly showering in there. So,
Also, something that was brought to our attention, that in our courtrooms, the jury, will need to be ADA compliant.
well, that's part of
Is
what,
that part of-
that's part of what we're gonna do, yes, sir.
Okay,
In Judge Black's courtroom, yes.
all right, thank you.
He's got a lot of ideas, and we're looking at getting in there the second week of December, and you know, hopefully give us 3 to 4 weeks, because, you know. But, that's all I have. It comes to a grand total of, $213,400. So, if y'all could give me that, I would greatly appreciate it.
All right, we will work on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Appreciate you.
Next up's our IT department. Morning, Mr. Perkins.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you. Good morning. The 503, the IT department budget, I'm requesting a couple of changes to the IT department budget. Everything else pretty much remained the same from last year. Adding, I would like to request reclassification of 2 positions. Change those positions to skilled positions, specifically to address business continuity. The travel budget, we're requesting a slight change from last year. It was $23,500, requesting $25,000 this year. If it pleases the court, I'd like to kind of elaborate on the personnel changes that I need to make. The Information Technology Department requests approval to reclassify 2 existing information technician positions to better align the county's operational cybersecurity needs. This proposal does not increase the number of authorized positions or add additional staff. Instead, it modernizes the existing positions to reflect the increasing complexity of today's technology environment. The first position proposed to be reclassified as cybersecurity analyst. Cybersecurity has become an essential function of county government. This position will focus on security monitoring, vulnerability management, identity and access management, incident response, security awareness, and compliance. Establishing a dedicated cybersecurity role will strengthen the county's ability to protect its information systems, reduce operational risk, and support the secure delivery of county services. The second position is proposed to be reclassified as the network infrastructure analyst. This position will support the county's network, server, storage, and communications infrastructure while serving as the primary technical resource supporting the sheriff's office and dispatch. Responsibilities will include network administration, infrastructure projects, disaster recovery planning, system documentation, and support mission-critical public safety systems. I believe as the county's technology environment continues to grow in complexity, specialized infrastructure responsibilities can no longer be effectively concentrated within one single position. This reclassification will expand technical expertise within the department, improve knowledge transfer through cross-training, and strengthen continuity of operations and reduce organizational risk. Approval of these reclassifications will maintain the current staffing level with no additional positions requested, strengthen the county's cybersecurity posture, improve support for the sheriff's office and dispatch, expand specialized technical expertise within the department, improve continuity of operations through cross-training and knowledge transfer, reduce reliance on a single individual for critical infrastructure management. That's a big one. Better position the information technology department to meet the county's current and future technology needs. I believe these reclassifications represent a fiscally responsible investment in the county's existing workforce while improving the reliability, security, and resilience of the technology systems and support county operations. Are there any questions on that? Okay. The non-departmental budget increased this year by 20%, roughly, well, exactly 19.5%. These increases were driven by the Tyler Technologies increases. Each year, Tyler Technologies increases 5%. The Odyssey, the CAD system, the RMS it increased 9%. There was one change to the budget that I made last minute. I wasn't privy to that information when I prepared the budget. The website hosting increased to $9,550. That is the Texas Association of County. It is the essential website package. Do you have any questions on that?
What did the website increase to?
Oh, well, actually, it didn't increase. The number that I had was inaccurate,
Okay.
and I made the change.
Okay. And you got that included in your contracts?
Yes, sir. I made the change and sent it to Charlene for addition to the budget.
That's it. All right. Any other questions?
I'd just like to take a minute and thank Sergeant Perkins for the job he's doing and what's going on. I appreciate what goes on over there, and you handle it. Y'all are very professional, and it shows. We want to thank you for what you do.
Thank you, sir.
We've been through a couple of events where we think somebody might have compromised our network, and every time you come out like a superstar. So
Thank you for saying that.
thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Now, what one increase that I will note is under the telephone cell phone under the 409, it increased from 100,000 to 120,000. I had to go through, I didn't have the benefit of, due to personal reasons, I didn't have the benefit of Charlie's knowledge on that particular aspect of it. So I went in and analyzed the bills one by one and projected for the next year what we were going to require. The maintenance contracts, something that was added to the maintenance contracts, kind of slipped through the cracks evidently, was the Rapiscan system in the courthouse. The maintenance had been omitted, for lack of a better word. It had been omitted, so we added it back. The per-click costs, I went in and I analyzed all the bills. Made a projection of $90,000. I was a little conservative with that, so I reduced the, let me find that. I went in and just, I'm requesting $87,500 for that. So otherwise, the Kemp Instruments maintenance for the UPS and dispatch, that remained the same. Let's see. All these costs are driven, I think a lot of these costs are driven, the hardware costs, the silicon, the data centers being built, lack of availability of components is increasing. All of the computer equipment is increasing substantially, so that's driving the increase in this year's request. So.
All right.
Let's see. And I believe that's all I've got, unless you have questions on the software maintenance.
Y'all got any questions?
It's got a budget we can understand.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you for your time.
Sir.
Next up, we're going to hear from our Marshall City Fire Chief, Mr. David Rainwater. Any other departments?
Commission, how are you?
Right, how you?
This is related to the budgeting part that, we pay the city for responding.
Thank you.
Did you need the projector?
No, I'll be okay. I brought this hard copy, and I think we can manage with this because first and foremost, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to come visit with you guys. Unfortunately, you guys are my last. Well, I say fortunately, I guess I should say you guys are my last presentation on this particular topic. One of the things that when I first got here, I came in with this position, and I was going to take 90 days to get my hands wrapped around things in the Marshall Fire Department. That plan got shot all to pieces in about the first week, and so I realized there was a lot of things that needed to be addressed, and so that 90 days turned into about 7, and I had to quickly jump on some things. One of the things that stood out to me very early on was our ambulance service, and it tends to be a little shocking for people, but I just kind of wanted to touch base with you guys and ask you if you had to guess, how many ambulances do you think we run for Harrison County? Any thoughts?
2.
Yeah, it's 2. And you're cheating because I've already told you. But we run 2 for all of Harrison County, and what I've given you here is the presentation, and I wanted it to be the same thing that I presented to the Marshall City Council. When I brought this to their attention, the presentation, there's a PowerPoint in the front, and then behind the tab, and I like I said, if you have any difficulty with sleeping, I promise you this 30-page report will help you fall back to sleep. It's in there, but it's a detailed analysis of the EMS service delivery that we have, and it goes into great detail about where all these numbers come from. I'll reference a few pages in it just to kind of touch base on it, but we're going to focus primarily on this presentation that's in the front before the tab. For us, right now, we do run 2 ambulances. We basically service all of Harrison County with the exception of, if you're familiar with the ESD territories, the only ones that we don't take care of are ESD 8, 1, and 5. We take care of everything basically from 2 east. So we have basically about 2/3 of the county, give or take. Now, we do provide some ambulance service to those other ESDs, but it's very minimal. It's usually a handful of calls a year that we actually run those. Most of that is actually in West Harrison that we run. The ESD1, which is the Hallsville area, that's serviced by Christus EMS, and so is the ESD8. Christus serves them as well. And those come primarily, so Hallsville has a unit that's stationed there, but one of the things is that truck runs a lot of transfers. The reason it's good for them to be there is because it's right next to Gregg County, and they run transfers out of Gregg County all the time. And so that's where a private ambulance company, that's where they make their money. Everybody thinks they make their money on 911. 911 is not a profitable service. If it was, I wouldn't be doing it. Some other company would come in and take it over. So they make their money. They run 911 to get in the door, and then they make their money on doing the transfer calls. We service a population estimated it's around 71,000. That number is actually probably a little lower when you take out everything, but that's basically the whole county. Our annual call volume roughly is about 5,500 calls a year. And then currently we run 2 ambulances, and if you guys are all familiar with our situation here in Marshall, where we've currently got a fire station closed. Our plan is to get that reopened. It should be reopened. Hopefully, we'll hear back, and that'll be reopened later this year. But the way when we reopen that station, we will still only have 2 ambulances, and I want to make sure that's communicated, because a lot of people thought we're putting another ambulance in, and we're not. What I presented to the council was that our current EMS provision is not acceptable. It's one of those things that the way we do things, and I hope that in my short time here that you guys have seen, I'm not afraid to take on the challenges and to be outspoken about things. This is one of those that it took me all of about probably 2 days to figure out that what we were doing wasn't the right thing. One of the things that stood out to me, and I've got the 2025 numbers here, is that we don't have sufficient capacity. And so if you're looking at this page here, which is this I believe it's the 3rd page of the presentation, the number that I'm gonna tell you, and it's disappointing for me, but it's the simple fact. We run a stat called overlapping calls, and basically what we do, this is just for EMS service. It basically talks about what our unit availability is. And so what that chart is telling you is that we have about 2,080 calls out of that 5,400 calls that we run. That's where both ambulances are out of service. And what that equates to is that if you pick up 911 and call today, I can only promise about 60% of the time that I have an ambulance available to run your call. And that's shocking to me. That's one of the things that I have a hard time looking at anybody in the eye and telling them, hey, I'm sorry, we didn't have one available. That's been, and I told our council that because right now the contracts that we have in place with the ESDs, we have it written into the contract that we can say, hey, we're going to prioritize Marshall over the county. And I don't think that's reasonable. I think when somebody calls 911, they had an emergency, and we're supposed to go. So we answer calls in the order that they're received. It's the way we've been doing it. It's how we do things now. But the problem is that leaves people uncovered. And then I'm going to have to look some family member in the eye and tell them we didn't have an ambulance available to send to you. And that's difficult for me to do, especially when I know that it's wrong, right? So the NFPA says that we're supposed to be able to answer 90% of the calls. They give us a 10% window for those really bad days, right? They say this is, but 90% of the time you should be able to answer the calls that are coming in. In order for us to hit that number, we would need 3 ambulances to be able to do that. If we had 3 ambulances today, that would take us to 93% based on our current numbers, and we would be able to 93% of the time guarantee we had an ambulance available to send to whoever called 911. Some of this is also a staffing issue for us, and one of the things that if you'll flip to the 3 options page, I presented to our council, and these are not the only options that are on the table. And I've had a conversation with Judge Sims, but I've also presented to all the ESDs. One of the reasons that I'm here with you is because the county and city have an agreement to provide ambulance service for uncertain. And so the first thing I want to kind of put on the table is, while I know we're talking about this is your budget discussion, this is not for this year's budget. We're not asking for a change. We're going to honor our contract, which is good through December 31st of 2027. That contract's in place. We're going to honor that all the way to the end. What we're talking about is, what does the ambulance service look like on January 1 of 2028? That's what we're having a conversation about, because right now, these are the three options that I, as the Marshall Fire Chief, have control over. There are other options on the table, and some of the ESDs are exploring those, and we can talk a little bit about them if you have some questions. But I presented these three options. Option one is to expand a third ambulance and that would require us to add 9 additional people to staff it. I do not have any equipment needs. I have enough ambulances and equipment. I could put that ambulance in service today. I just don't have the people. So that's the issue. So it would require us hiring 9 additional people. It would adjust the rates to the fair ESD rates. So we would have to have them kick in more money to cover that third ambulance, because they pay a portion of our overall service cost. And that to me is the most recommended option, because again, that hits that 93% mark where we can make sure we got an ambulance available when somebody calls. Option 2 is to discontinue service to the ESDs, and this is not a popular option for multiple reasons, because again, that leaves somebody unprotected. And right now, Marshall is the only game in town. Now, I know that Christus and some of the other private ambulance companies, they may be willing to come in, but we're cheaper than what they are. It's gonna be more expensive to bring them in, because we've already had, as part of my due diligence, I've already visited with them. I know what they're going to charge to come in the door and provide service to the county. So, but I wanted to make sure our council understood that there's a net loss and increase in cost for us, because one of the questions that gets brought up all the time is, we bill for ambulance service, we bill patients. And so there is a net revenue of loss by discontinuing service to the ESDs. We do lose that revenue. However, that net revenue, we only recuperate about 40% of our billing costs. Of our actual cost, we only recuperate about 40% in billing. And so those numbers are all taken into account. I took the billing into account when we adjusted numbers, trying to get to an even keel based off of that. We currently collect about $550,000 in billing from the county. From just the county residents that when we run those calls. And again, so there's a net loss there, which increases the cost to the city of about $538,000. And then option 3 is to do a private partnership. And I visited with Christus. I visited with, I think it's Life Care out of Texarkana. And I reached out to UT Health. UT Health did not respond back. But when I visited with them, basically, they were willing to look at doing some sort of a 50-50 split, right? So that the county ESDs would kick in 50%, we would kick in 50%. The problem with that is it was the most expensive option, because they're higher than we are. So to get them to staff an ambulance and bring it in, it was going to be the most expensive option. And quite frankly, as the fire chief, I have no control over their EMS service. I have no control over if they keep that unit in town. I have no control over if they staff it correctly. I lose all control over that truck, and it just didn't make sense to pay more money and lose control. So it was not an option I recommended to our council, but these were the 3 options that we explored. The next page there is basically kind of going into a cost breakdown. And, this was what I presented to the city. Option 1, ironically, to add a third ambulance and pay for it the way we want to, is actually the least expensive option. It costs the city about $410,000. But if you'll look up at the top, the ESD contract revenue, currently the ESDs collectively pay us about $208,000, and that's including what we get from the county. It's about $208,000 a year for ambulance service. That would require an additional $450,000, and that's basically the cost of an ambulance. To put an ambulance in service, whether you're talking about private ambulance or public's usually a little bit cheaper, but when you're talking about putting an ambulance in service, personnel, equipment, all the consumables, you can figure roughly about $500,000 to $600,000 a year is what it takes to put an ambulance on the street. And so that jumps that cost up. Our annual operating cost would jump up to 1.7. Our current annual operating cost is 1.1 million. If you look at option 2, and I don't want to get too lost in the numbers, I'm happy to explain this further if you need be, but that option 2, it drops down to $880,000 if we discontinue service because there's a cost savings in our consumables. Right now, running the county, the way we're doing it, it's about $1.1 million. If we stop providing service to the county, we drop our cost in consumables about $200,000, and it takes us down to $880,000.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir,
Right-
please.
right quick. In your booklet, it says that the ESDs in the county pays you $208,000.
Yes, sir.
Y'all bill $550,000 for your trips, so you're recouping $758,000
Yes, sir.
of your cost. You just said that the cost to run your 2 ambulances is $1.1 million.
Correct, yes, sir.
So you're basically providing coverage for the city of Marshall for less than $300,000. So how can that be a bad investment for you? Because if you don't run the county and you just run the city calls, you're gonna lose $758,000 of your ambulance generated revenue today.
Yes, sir.
So it's hard for me to sit here and think that the county's what's, you know, and if they need to go up. I mean, I understand the ESDs because I was on the original ESD 8. We had Champion in Nice Christensen. We're
Yes.
fortunate to have an ambulance station up there. And I know Hallsville has, and then
Mm-hmm.
West Harrison is closer. They just run them out of the emergency
Right.
from the hospital. But it's hard for me to digest the numbers because I've seen your presentation.
Yes, sir.
From a friend of mine.
Yes, sir.
And you know, your report says that the county calls represent 26% of your calls
Yes,
for
sir.
the year.
Yes, sir.
So it looks to me like that the county's paying close to 70% of your costs to run an ambulance
Yeah.
for 26% of the calls. So to me, y'all are the one that are benefiting from making the calls out into the county and taking that $758,000.
Yes, sir. So I can understand the confusion. That is, yeah, no, I understand. So what I measured for the county, or for the city commission, or council, sorry, I'll get it right. They're not alarm commission, city council. What I wanted to put forth before them is what we are currently doing today. Had we not ever taken on the county, had we not ever contracted with the county, you're correct that there is a benefit in us in getting that billing revenue. The billing does not offset our cost of what we have to run in those calls. It just doesn't offset that cost. The reason I say that is because when we look at right now, the contract that we currently have in place, what we actually spend, the city actually subsidizes the county on average about $115,000 a year. So we actually kick in, so the Marshall residents are actually subsidizing the ESDs.
I don't agree with that.
Well, I
I mean, because I'm looking at your numbers that you presented to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I see, and you verified that y'all's billables is $550.
Correct.
And I know for a fact there's $208,000 coming, because I hear it from the ESDs in my, so any way you cut that, that's $758,000 of revenue stream that the city collects.
Yes, sir.
Well, your book says it costs you $1.1 million to operate 2 ambulances.
Yes, sir.
So how can you say that you're subsidizing when they're paying the biggest share?
Well, they're not paying the biggest share, like I said.
How can it not be?
Well,
$758,000?
because again, what I tried to calculate here is I tried to take out, when we were doing the adjusted cost for what it was, I tried to take out what we do get, because honestly, you're correct in one of your statements, is that we have a larger billable return on county calls as a percentage, okay? So we have a large, but that 1.1 is what's left over after billing. That 1.1 million is what's left over after billing. That's our actual costs after billing. So what we're talking about here is in this new column in option 1, you see that I've tried to take into account what the final cost would be after we take out billing and after we take out the ESD revenue. This is what the net cost would be. The 1.1 is everything adjusted for all the revenue that we do get, because I wanted to have a fair number to discuss. Because the question that we get asked when we go out is people are like, well, don't you get to bill for these calls? Yes, we do. But it only covers 40% of our actual expenditures. So if you factor that in, just rough math, over top of that 1.1, there's an additional 40% in cost that's been adjusted. to run our ambulance as we run today. So, and again, I will tell you that it is very easy, and there's a lot of, this is one of the things that has been very difficult about this process, is because when you start to compare numbers, one of the things that's inconsistent is billing. Right now, Medicare and Medicaid, if it takes a dive, that number drops significantly. There's no guarantee on that billing. And year over year, we don't necessarily get 40%. We've had it as low as 29% return. I just tried to be as fair in these calculations, and these are all strictly just for illustration, right? Because these are not exact. These are estimates based off of year-over-year data. But again, when we're trying to present this, I wanted to be as fair as possible when we looked at this so that people would understand what the actual cost to run that ambulance is. And the bottom line is that even at these additional costs, we're still cheaper than anybody that would come in and provide that service. That's just, it's just the case. And so, but again, what I wanted to present to you is I wanted you to hear the same presentation that I've given to all the ESDs, and I wanted you to have the same presentation that I've given to the city council, because one of the things that I was worried about was that, and the reason I wanted you to hear it from me is I don't want there to be rumor mill or conversations happening that people are like, well, I heard this, well, I heard that. I want you to be able to ask me directly, and so I appreciate the question, Commissioner. Like I said, and it is confusing. I completely understand. This is one of those things. There's a lot of levers and a lot of dials to twist on this thing. There just is. The other question that's been asked, because this presentation is all considered on an all-in mentality. That basically, if we can all agree and that we're all going to go in on this third ambulance, right? If that's the direction we decided to go. This is all based on everybody agreeing and going in. Well, if you're just doing the simple math, that's 8 agencies that have to come together and agree. That's going to be a lift in and of itself, right? That's going to be a challenge to get 8 agencies to agree on everything and how it's going to look. But it's something that if you look at, and part of the reason, again, obviously you can flip through and you can see my recommendation was option 1. But if you'll look back, there's a timeline here, and this is the reason that we're having this conversation today in 26 and not in 28 and 27, because whatever plan we put in place, whatever path forward it looks like, everybody needs to have time to figure out what that option is going to be. Because if we go with option 1, if everybody said, yes, we're on board and we're going to pull the trigger and go with option 1 today and put a third ambulance in, which is what I would hope for. But again, that's at best, I'm going to be pushing that timeline to have that third ambulance in place by January 1 of 2028. It takes that long. I got to get the people hired, I got to get them trained, and I got to get everything in place. To send somebody to paramedic school is a 9-month process. Paramedic comes after they're a firefighter, EMT, and then paramedic. If you take all that into account, if I could put them in school one right after another and it all line up, best case scenario is 18 months. It takes me 18 months to get somebody who comes in off the street with nothing to get them to that level to be a paramedic on the street. So you can see that we have, it's the time to be talking about this is now, not the time in 2027 when we're hitting the panic button. And I wanted to put it before you so that you could have opportunity to digest it, look at it, and I am happy. And in fact, I'll have my business card. I'll give all of you my card, has my personal cell phone on it. If you happen to read this in the middle of the night and you have one of those insomnia moments and you happen to have a question, please call me. I'm happy to sit down and we can go through it, and I'll find you the answers. If I don't know them off the top of my head, I will find you the answers. But what I want to make sure of is that everybody in Harrison County is on the same page, singing from the same sheet of music, that we understand what the real situation is. Because what I can tell you without a doubt is that what we're doing today is not sustainable. It's not going to hold. We are literally on the precipice of having a situation where somebody is going to go without an ambulance, and it's going to be something serious. Right now, we've been lucky, and there's no other explanation for it. We've just been lucky, because it's going to come a time where somebody, and like I said, for me, I make no bones about it. I come from a system that was very, very busy. We had 4 ambulances running 10,000 calls, and 4 ambulances was not enough for 10,000 calls, and it was always on my mind, and it keeps me up at night. I don't want to have to look somebody's family member in the eye and tell them I knew about this and I did nothing. And so that's why we're here. I want to make sure that you know and that we can all figure out whatever that path forward is. But something's got to change. It's got to give, because it's not going to sustain the way it is. And that's essentially where we're at. But even if you go with an alternative plan forward, and again, this is kind of what some of the ESDs had brought up, is if they decided to go with a third ambulance service, to get that truck in here, to get that thing going, you're looking at, I've had two different options were presented about setting up a separate ESD for ambulance service. I don't know what the legal ramifications of that are. I'm not an ESD expert. So there are some of the groups are researching that to see if they can set up. But you know as well as I do, that'll require going before the county. They'll have to get it passed. It'll be an election. It'll be a separate tax. I'm just spitballing here. Taxes are not super popular, so I'm not sure that that's going to go.
Well, the tax will pass.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
Yeah, and
I don't care what it's for.
right, and so and I think that's, again, I applaud them for looking into it, but I just don't think it's a reasonable option. I don't think the community's going to support it. So, but if you did that, let's say hypothetically it did pass, those dollars don't come in until 2028. So how do you get it to that point? That's the things that we're having to have this conversation about. How do we get, and what does it look like on January 1st of 2028? That's what I want to make sure. So that's realistically the presentation I have for you. This is the same one I gave to council, but I'm happy to entertain any questions or anything. And like I said, I've got my business card I'll leave with you, and I would love for you, if you have any questions offline, or if you come up with something, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask me. I'll be happy to get into it with you. Again, my sole purpose here, and I know Chad and I have visited quite a bit. I don't have any ulterior motives. This is not a money grab. This is not something that I'm trying to do. It's just I believe in doing the right thing. And right now, I can tell you that Harrison County is short on ambulances, and that's not the right thing. We got to figure out a pathway forward. And so, with that, I appreciate your time today, and I'll answer any questions if anybody else has any. I'm happy to answer them.
Can you explain on page 18? And I guess that's what, if I'm having a hard time comprehending or realizing, looking at the data. Where the comments you made about, these numbers were adjusted down or whatever, because, it says on the current situation.
Yes.
And in the top one is the annual operating cost of what you're currently doing, 2 ambulances for a regional service.
Yes, sir.
And that's the 1.1 that is costing the city now to run them. And that shows you, as you work down through it, what the actual cost to the city taxpayers are.
Yes, sir.
And those numbers speak volumes to me about the comment I made earlier. I mean, the largest, almost 2 to 1, you would basically, that the ESDs and the county people are paying 2/3 of the city's cost to operate these 2 ambulances. And that's where I can't differentiate where you're saying your numbers don't support that when this is what your report says.
Sure. Yes, sir.
And I just can't get it through. And then the next column shows you, if you cut out what it's going to cost to the taxpayers just to run them inside the city limits, is the 880. So I don't see where it's not, I don't want to use the word profitable, but cost effective is a better term probably for the city to actually run these 2 ambulances out.
Except for the fact that we can't manage the call volume. I mean, it doesn't change the fact of the call volume. We can't manage the call volume.
But when we talk about dollar value.
Well, and again, and I
guess that's where I'm taking the presentation.
Sure. I tell you what, because I have a more detailed cost breakdown. No, it's fine. Yeah, and I'll break that down for you, and I'll get it to you and make sure that, because again, you're exactly right, and I will tell you that as I put this is one of those things. This is about 10 rewrites of this. I've been working on this for over a year, trying to put something together that would explain everything. And so let me get you the full cost breakdown, and I'll show you how it all measures out, and then we can talk. But again, even at that, the bottom line is we can't manage the call volume with the 2 ambulances. I can manage the call volume inside Marshall, and let me just say this so that I've had this conversation a bunch of times. There are a ton of formulas that you can use to figure out how many ambulances do you need. NFPA has one. There's a couple of ambulance services have them that kind of tell you And you can do the math on them and you can break them down, but basically what it boils down to when you look at it, it almost always comes back to between 2,000 and 2,500 calls a year is what each ambulance can handle. That's depending on how you're laid out geographically, depending on how things go. Based on our geographical layout, having to cover the county and those extended times, each ambulance ends up closer to the 2,000. So if you figure that, our ambulance service right now can handle about 4,000 calls a year. That's just the city of Marshall. That's what it breaks down to. That two ambulances will just manage the city of Marshall. They can't manage the county on top of that because that's where that 40% of not having an ambulance available comes in. And it's the nature of that volume that we're having to contend with. And so, but I'm happy to get that for you, Commissioner. I appreciate you bringing it up, and like I said, I'm happy to do that. And I want to have full disclosure so you guys can see everything we're talking about, and I'll provide it to Chad. I'll give it to you to distribute to the commission so we can. And if you want to meet separately, I'll come visit with you.
I just, I get I've got a lot of friends that are in the, or dealing with it more
Yes,
so
sir.
than what we are, so I've had my ear bent
Sure.
quite a bit. And
Oh, I
I've
bet you
sat
have.
and looked at the figures and run, and even my thought was, even at the addition of an ambulance and the addition of the 8 or 9 and opening up another station, you grow from 1.1 to 1.7. Well, in my mind, the city's still providing 4 ambulances.
3, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
3 ambulances.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the 3rd ambulance. Another station opened up that's shuttered down for 1.7 million. Well, you've already showed your numbers that you're getting 880,000 of that, or over 800,000 of that cost from the county. So
No,
I
that's,
don't know.
yeah, the 880 is the city's.
Well, 880 is the
Yeah,
city,
yeah.
but okay, but what I'm saying is, currently you're getting 550 and 208, 758,000.
Right.
From the ESDs and the billable sales. That's almost 50% of what your cost of the 1.7 to run the 3rd ambulance. So you're providing better service for the city and the county with a 3rd at a 50% cost instead of 100% cost. Is that not, in theory, is that wrong?
And I just want to make sure I understand. So are you saying the city should be paying 100% of the cost for the county?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the ESD county calls and the billable revenue is accounting for over $700,000 of what that cost is, or closer to 800,000. So what I'm saying is that's almost 50% of the
new
cost.
1.7.
Yeah, if you added a 3rd ambulance at 8 people or 9 personnel today,
Right.
and they started in the morning, your cost is going to grow to 1.7 instead of 1.1. You're still going to get the 758,000 plus more because you're going to, what you're getting.
But keep in mind too, that figure is a generous collection rate on those numbers. Like I told you, that
Well, I'm just
number,
looking at the
that's
numbers
a
you
variable.
provided.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just want to be clear that we're talking about that 550,000. That's not a guarantee. That
Well, I
is,
understand that.
yeah, that is a fluctuating cost, and I estimated it on the high side for comparison that my preference would be if somebody's going to eat some cost on it, we would eat the cost on that part of it.
Well, but at the same time, as a rural person in paying an ESD tax,
Yeah,
your work or your report shows that those county and ESD outside city limit calls represent 26% of the cost.
Yes, sir.
Of the calls for the year. So why should they pay 50 or 60% of the cost to run it?
Okay.
When they're getting 26% of the service and cities getting the 74%. So that's where there's a value added as to what you're actually getting. So in my opinion,
right.
we that live out rural and pay into a 10 cents ESD tax.
Yes, sir.
Or then being billed by the city for the ambulance service, we're paying 26% of the cost, but we're paying almost 50 or 60, over 60% of the cost for you to make
Okay.
those calls. So
I'll-
there's a value added for the people, this is what I get rural. I mean,
Okay.
and then when you look at your numbers, I feel the same
Sure,
way.
yeah, sure, and that's fine. I will get those more detailed cost breakdown for you, and we can go through those. And again, my main goal here today was to make you aware of the situation. And then again, one of the things that I had discussed with Judge Sims was just to make sure that I had the opportunity, because you guys are funding uncertain, and so if things move forward, there would be an increased cost for uncertain. The other thing that's here as well, and again, most, not all, but most of the ESDs are capped at their max collection rate. And so like I said, I've done my due diligence on this. I understand the situation that we have. That's why I laugh when people say that Marshall's just trying to get more money out of this deal. There's no profit in this for us. It's just, again, and I'll give you the breakdown and show you. But there's no profit in this for us. It's just trying to do the right thing and make sure that when somebody picks up 911, an ambulance will show up. So,
Well, and I don't want you to think I'm trying to feel like that it's a net profit deal for y'all, because when I look at it, I see it's a good partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And they're paying, in my opinion, they're paying their share of that cost, and y'all entered into the contracts with them.
yes, sir.
I've got 3 or 4 of the ESDs in my precinct alone, and 2 of them are the smallest collection
I
of
understand.
any of the 9 that we've got.
Yep.
So they're sitting at greater than 50 to 60% of their yearly take of what your projected cost to them was, and they can't physically fund, because like you say, they're already at 10
I understand.
so they're tapped out. So
Right.
do they quit doing fire service and help calls just to pay for an ambulance? Well, I don't know what the answer is. But they
yeah.
can't continue to run a ESD system, like volunteer fire board, whatever you call it, under the conditions of what these projections are.
And-
It's not feasible for
And
them either.
I 100% agree with you. That's the reason this scared me so bad when I started looking into it. The harder you dig into it, the scarier it gets.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that because while I would love to tell you that I would like to make that change today, it's hard for me, but I know physically we can't make a change in the city right now, but I've already gotten support from the city manager, and everybody's on board. We're gonna make sure that we do our part and fulfill our contract through the end of 27. What I don't know is what this looks like in 28. That's the question, is what do we do come January 1, 2028? And I don't want this to be something that sneaks up on us. I mean, if you think we're in middle of the year 26, the clock is ticking, so.
Well, the ESDs are gonna have to make the hard call. I mean, 'cause we don't control them either.
I understand.
Any more than anybody.
Right.
But I just wanna make sure that our taxpayers, period, for the
Yeah.
citizens, I've always lived rural. And I think the ESDs, in my mind, are the best thing that ever happened to the volunteer fire department.
I agree.
But there's, it's just it's a tough question for them and y'all as well.
Yes, sir.
And,
I wish I had the answer. I really do. I wish I had something, and like I said, these are the ones I presented to council. These are just the ones I have control over. There are other options out there, and I don't know how viable. I mean, some of them, like we talked about, would require a vote for a tax, and I just don't feel like the county's gonna support that, so.
it won't, it just won't happen.
Right.
People just can't,
Yeah, and
regardless of the service, they're gonna get
listen,
on top of it. It could
you-
be a
you-
bang for their buck.
Yeah.
when you get right down
you're
to it.
preaching to the choir right now. I understand,
Just put tax
because
on it.
I tell people all the time, the most important service that the city provides is water. Because if you don't have water come out the tap, or the toilets don't flush, that's what people get really upset. Most people, they love the fire department, they love the police department, and they love knowing that they're there. But we only actually encounter about 10% of the public. We only have actual direct contact with 10% of the public of our call volume. And the other 90%, it's purely reputation, because they hear about the good things we do, they're happy that we're there. But 90% of the people very rarely use our service. They just like knowing it's there, right? So nobody worries about that until you have to call 911. And then when you have to call 911, that's the most important thing in the world. I understand completely. I wish I had a good answer, and I wish I was bringing better news to you. I would love to have a different topic to discuss, but it's just important to me to get it before you, and so that we're all operating from the same, same sheet of music, and that, again, we can try to figure out a path forward. So I appreciate your time. If nobody else has any questions, Judge, I appreciate you getting me in here.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all very much.
Do we have any other departments that want to present or talk about their budget today? Anybody else? Come on, all jump at once. Slow down, don't rush the podium. That brings us to one last item here, gentlemen. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Timmons. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, a motion passes 5-0. We're adjourned. It's 11 a.m. Thank y'all.